Hello, I'm a woman in my late 30s. When I was young, our house was like a Pinocchio wood workshop in a fairyland with wooden carved dolls, which were all handmade by my dad, who is a carpenter. My father was a professional wooden furniture maker who was proud of his fine craftsmanship and dedicated to making only high-quality, custom-ordered products where he was its president. Even though he specialized in custom-made orders, thanks to his excellent skills, orders were always waiting by several months to have had a very successful operation with several veteran employees. So born in such an environment, I naturally grew up close to the wood and carpentry and even dreamed of becoming a furniture designer very early on. I harbored childish ambitions, thinking I will conquer the world with the design I created and the furniture made with my father's skills. That was my goal as a young kid, but my childhood happiness was short-lived, and the time of a long, dark period for our family had arrived. My father's furniture factory was scammed by his trusted partner, and it went out of business. It was not enough for that crook to steal all the furniture and operating funds of several months' worth, and he even took out a company loan and ran off with the money. My father, who knew nothing but carving wood, was helpless and ended up closing the factory after paying the last wages to the employees by selling off-factory machines. At that time of cruel spring, I had just turned 17, and I stared at my dad who was drunk and asleep. I reaffirmed my dream that I will become a famous furniture designer to revive my father's furniture factory. Exiting in my early 20s, it was a series of challenging and suffering times trying to realize my conviction. After graduating from the College of Industrial Design with a full scholarship, I got a job at a mid-sized furniture company and accrued on the job skills. While eating the cheapest instant cup noodles every day, little by little, we saved money to revive our family's furniture factory. A few years later, on the day I quit the company and rented a warehouse on the outskirts of the town to open up a furniture workshop, our whole family celebrated together, crying. Each of us vowed that we would never make the same painful times happen to our family again. Of course, running a business was not as easy as it appeared. New customers visiting our unknown wooden craft shop were few, and not a single distributor would commission their furniture production with us. As those days continued, my dad and I were honestly beginning to wear out eventually. Especially as for me, I faced a stark reality whether I should go back to the company. To become well recognized, I accumulated enough skills as a furniture designer and thereafter took up the challenge of running our own factory. One day, a savior appeared and helped us get back on our feet. He was a young man, my age, who knelt before my father and said, "Master, excuse me, but as I get older, people's faces keep getting blurry. This is our first meeting, yet you called me master. I have seen you through your furniture, but this is the first time I am seeing you in person, master." I was surprised and laughed, finding it amusing that he asked to become my father's disciple so suddenly, without even exchanging names. But my heart pounded strangely, so I stepped forward and said, "Actually, I am the president of this workshop. The real owner is my father, but on paper anyway." be the designer, Sherry. Do you know me? He asked. Of course I know you. I seen your designs while working for a furniture company. I studied a lot on my own because I wanted to become a furniture maker. I was surprised to find that some of the custom-made furniture I have been using since I was a child was designed by the master's daughter. I wonder if this is fate. I smiled, feeling cheered up. Next night your design, Sherry. It smells like a person. It has a charm that warmly embraces a tiring day. So, fathers, he said. Why are you calling me father? Did I? I replied. Yes, you addressed me as father just now. Again, so master, please be my teacher. I want to make Sherry's designs into furniture myself. This is so unusual. What an eccentric young man you are. But what if you have the same dream as me? There is only one way. Become our family and make furniture with my daughter's design.
He became my father's disciple and began to learn woodworking skills.
Before long, he and I became a couple whispering love to each other. And before I knew it, we were imagining a future together. I got a proposal with a wood-carved ring he made with his clumsy skills. The very next day after I accepted his proposal, the conflict with my mother-in-law started very suddenly, just like when her son suddenly flew in like a blue bird. The mother-in-law did not notify us in advance, and she just barged into our furniture workshop, and she started splashing something on me. It was a cup of iced coffee, to be exact. Well, whatever it was shocking. At that moment, the only thought I could think of was that it was fortunate that my father and my fiancé were out on business. Seeing your sudden behavior, I can roughly guess, are you Sam's mother? Being for a fool like you, at least you got some sense. Hello, my name is Sherry. Sam and I just got engaged yesterday. Who said I wanted to know your name? No matter how sudden and awkward the situation is, it's good manners to say hello first. Never mind, it seems you're smart enough. So, do we need to talk any further and waste time? Are you against our marriage? Well, I'd like one thing that you're quick to grasp the situation. Then the conversation is over now that we understand each other. I will go now. You haven't said why yet. Have you heard what kind of family our family is? Yes, I heard that all of your family members are lawyers for generations. My son was originally a law student too. Since his childhood, he said that he dreamed of becoming a judge or a lawyer. Do you know why he suddenly decided to be a carpenter? He's rebelling now. He knew nothing but studying, but he is going through his puberty late and he is rebelling against us, and he is just playing with you and your dad temporarily. Well, I don't know. What? Maybe it's just your own thinking. All right, I knew you would be like this, so I brought his diary here. So read it carefully and make sure something like this never happens again. It means that you must make sure that we will never meet again. After she finished speaking, she stood glaring at me for a while. At that moment, I felt a long, troubled relationship with my prospective mother-in-law, and I thought that I should not let her leave like this. I'll just bear with her, just today. I won't put up with it if something like this happens again. I'm also a precious child to my parents. Oh my lord, a spoiled one at that. She then left angrily. I felt trouble for a long while. the most painful thing was I wondered whether there was something I didn't know about my fiancé. I was worried that he had some kind of a wound that I didn't know about. The diary that his mother left with me was written that he wanted to become a great lawyer like his father and his older brother. However, I was not even given the time to tell my husband about my concerns. When he learned of his mother's behavior, he was so furious and ready to run over to his house to have it out with his mother once and for all, while my dad's pride was badly hurt that his mother forced me just because I was a carpenter's daughter. Fortunately, my father, who has lived his entire life as a proud carpenter, focused on his work and showed me his steadfast strength of dealing with his anger. However, my fiancé, who was a new apprentice, was in a different situation. Even though he didn't have enough hours in a day to be practicing hard, his mother constantly pestered him by calling and demanding that he should be preparing to take the bar examination to become a lawyer, and tried to make him feel guilty by saying he shouldn't marry a carpenter's daughter if he thought of his parents' social position and reputation. Then, I saw a glimpse of him, like us when we started to become wary of the problems my father and I faced after reopening our furniture workshop. Of course, my fiancé did not let out how he felt inside because of his usual cheerful disposition. Then an incident occurred where his mother's opposition to the marriage led her to display even more obstinate behavior. I heard that his mother was trying to buy the building where we were renting our shop. Why would she, except to show off her power of money and teach us a lesson about what she could do to us? If I didn't want to give up on marrying her son, it was a threat that she would kick us out of the building. As the situation escalated to the extreme, my fiancé was stuck between a rock and a hard place, where he was at risk of losing his dream along with the complications of choosing between his mother, who gave him birth, and me, whom he loved. He didn't have to say a word to me, but I could feel his turmoil. Before all this trouble started, his skills were advancing as a promising apprentice, but they began to stagnate right around that time. In the end, I'd had to make a choice, and for me to decide what to do, I needed to talk to him, so I brought it up first. Do you know what my dad calls you? A son-in-law? Not that. His disciple? Not that either. Well, then what would it be? I'm not sure. A bluebird. A bluebird? Yes. One day, you suddenly flew into us and made the atmosphere in our gloomy shop into a bright place. So, he nicknamed you as a bluebird. As you know, my dad has a bit of a boyish side of him. Is it some kind of innocence? Or should I say romantic? Anyway, the fact that you take after such a father is another of your charms. I know. Where would my father's bloodline go? And that's why I'm here with you? Seriously. Well, because you always have been sincere, every facial expression, gesture, word, and action. So, I'll just ask. You don't have to ask. I'll answer you. How would you know what I'm going to ask you? Even if my mom opposes our marriage, let's get married anyway. Even if my mother says she would never see us, let's get married anyway. I do want to receive everyone's blessings very much, but even if I don't, I love you even more. So let's get married. Okay. In fact, There were so many things I wanted to ask my fiancé, starting with why he gave up his dream of becoming a lawyer and how he got hurt and whether I could do anything to heal his wounds, embracing him warmer than now. But before I even asked, he showed me his unchanging love like an evergreen tree first. So, I decided to put all those questions on hold for the time being, and I went to see his mother without telling anyone. The urgent issue right then was to settle with his mother in order to protect my fiancé. So, do you come to just tell me about your gibberish about love? Are you just trying to get married at all costs? You seem to have misunderstood something. I'm not here to get your permission to marry. I came to tell you to start recognizing your son's dream. I know that the job of a carpenter, no matter how euphemistically it is referred to as an artisan, engineer, or maker, it's a job that does not receive the status from society. Because I have witnessed the prejudice that my father had endured all his life. But that's just prejudice. Prejudice is a problem with people who look at it through the eyes of prejudice. So, I'm just going to hold my head up high, because there's no reason in the world for a victim to live with their heads down. If I do that in front of you, it would be like putting down the pride of both my father and my fiancé. Do you have time today? No, I'm going to be a bit busy. If you have an appointment, cancel it or postpone it. I have somewhere to go with you right now. She forced me and dragged me to show me a multiplex condominium building that she was going to rent out in a prime location in the city. It was a very expensive, luxurious condominium that I couldn't afford even when my father's furniture factory was doing well before. Next, she took me to an empty factory space that looked like it was about 8,000 square feet. Then she finally opened her mouth. If you're that confident, then marry my son if you can make my son become a lawyer. Do whatever you want, whether you marry him or what. It's if my son becomes a lawyer or a district attorney or a judge, if you let him become any of those, then I will give my permission to you to become legally married to my son. I will put this factory as well as that condominium I showed you earlier in your name. I was speechless. However, if you don't keep your promise, then you will have to take the responsibility for failing to keep your side of the bargain. If anyone asks me who you are, I will tell them that I don't know you. I can't do that. Why? You held up your head so high as if you were so confident, but now are you scared suddenly? Don't you have any confidence now to take care of my son, now that you see the big gap between your family and mine in terms of money? That's why you should have considered this social status gap between you and us before you started dating my son. When I look at you, tend to live in your world only. Look at you even now. You got it totally wrong. I don't know why, but I was saying that I won't forcefully push your son to be a lawyer that he had given up on anyway. I followed you here even from my part, taking my very precious time out to tell you that. Do you understand? I can't believe I cannot communicate with you this much. Are you that dense? There are things in this world that you should never bend like an evergreen tree. Never mind. You know the fact that my family is a family of lawyers for generations, right? As for Sam, he hasn't taken the bar exam yet. So aside from that, there is only one person who isn't a lawyer. That's me. How do you think I've been treated? I was treated as if I was invisible. I believed in only love and married my husband, but even that love did not last long. Since all of my in-laws are lawyers, I couldn't properly engage in even a single word of the conversation, and since such situations, mistakes and glares got repeated, even the love for my husband, whom I believed in, quickly cooled. I didn't know about that. Don't you think it won't happen to you? Do you think it has nothing to do with Sam? If my son doesn't become a lawyer or judge or prosecutor, you and Sam will be treated the same way. I'm here right now to make sure that doesn't happen. Are you testing me now? Are you just trying to test how much more vicious I can become? As her hysterical emotions reached their peak, Sam showed up as I had contacted him in advance. Stomp it. I won't become a lawyer. I hate it. Am I doing this for me? I'm doing it for you. If you want to live without being treated like me, among your father, your siblings, and relatives who are all lawyers, there's no other way than to live up to that level. I have scars too. That memory hurt so much, and that's why I can't possibly become a lawyer. Did you know? My fiancé continued his story, and I finally learned why he, who dreamed of becoming a lawyer for a long time, changed his life path as a furniture maker. One day, right before Sam dropped out of law school, he had devoted all his energy to studying to become a lawyer like his prospective father, and went to see his father, a seasoned lawyer, about the accident of a case. However, at the same time, a client was protesting on a case that was lost, which was handled by his father. Heaps enraged, not only the client grabbed him by the neck, but also slapped his father on the cheek and even spit in his face. The moment the client spat on his father's face, Sam's and his father's eyes met, and the trauma of witnessing his father, whom he respected, being treated that way in front of his eyes, stayed with him. So Sam eventually gave up on becoming a lawyer he had dreamed of for a long time. Do you understand now why I gave up being a lawyer? It was just a happening, wasn't it? Just as each job has its own difficulties, right? I pull a simple happening. The father whom I have admired all my life, the lawyer I've been dreaming of all my life, it was crushed right in front of my eyes. How could that be a mere happening? Well, let's say it was that, depending on the person. It could be a big trauma. Even I would understand that. But no matter what, you have a certain standard of how you have lived and in what kind of family background. So, isn't it ridiculous that you suddenly become a carpenter? Because it was that hard. It hurt so much, and I was so scared. My dreams and fantasies got shattered, and I didn't know how I could live like that at all. His mother remained silent. My fiancé continued. That wood is different. It will come out just as much as I put my care into it. It doesn't spit at me for failing. It just silently embraces all of me with its deep growth rings. That's why I love wood and want to become a carpenter. Why? I still remember it vividly. The day I went to a furniture factory with you to custom order my bed and a matching desk when I was young. There was the sweet woody scent. I remember seeing a father, mother, and daughter smiling happily in the scent of wood there. I found out later that it was Sherry and her father. That made me more confident. It's in the most difficult moment of my life, I became convinced that this path was my destiny. I understand with my head, but my heart can't accept it because it's something I don't understand. Then let's live to each his own. Are you sure you know what that means? Yes. All right, try that. Twain, whether it be rain or shine, live as you please. Instead, I don't want to see that. As much as watching you live being disrespected by your relatives, it will be hard for me to watch you live rolling around in filthy sawdust. His mother spoke as if she was making a point, saying she never wanted to see us, but for some reason, she couldn't leave the place coldly. His mother, who seemed like she wouldn't budge even if she was poked with a needle, was showing the first sign of acquiescence. She got hold of herself for a moment, and as she was leaving, she said casually, "If you become very successful later, put a bookshelf in your father's study." I don't know if that day will ever come. Her words sounded like she was giving us homework. That was how we gained one more goal to achieve. We were going to become very, very successful and put a bookshelf in my father-in-law's study. No, that wasn't enough. If you receive one, give back 2 or 3. It was our law, right? So I made up my mind to do all 3 of them. Not only the study, but the entire in-laws house will be filled with furniture designed by me and carved by Sam himself. My husband and I were really fast with our actions. We had a new goal and worked day and night. Thanks to this, my design skills improved and my husband's skills advanced so much that even my father, a veteran carpenter, became so surprised. The days were fun and happy as I felt that we could achieve all our dreams and goals at once. Then one day, my mother-in-law came to visit us when we were sweating from working in the shop. Again, she appeared out of the blue without calling. However, it was very different from her previous appearance. Why, there are moments when we can communicate without having to say anything, right? It was like that the moment when we met my mother-in-law suddenly. She tried hard to be indifferent, so her face was expressionless, but I could clearly see the sadness she hid inside. "Do you have any suits you can wear right now? It looks like there's a place we need to go together. It's okay even if it's not nice clothes. You just need to be tidy enough to be polite." "Yes, I will prepare right away." My husband and I were guessing what was going on, but we got dressed and followed her. Eventually, the place we arrived at was a funeral home. After seeing a portrait, my husband collapsed. "How could you do this to me? You should have told me even if I'm living a life that is different from your will. He's my dad. I'm his youngest son. Because your father didn't want to worry his children. Since when? Since when had he been sick?" My mother-in-law told the story of his father as if comforting her son. "Carved himself. It was a malignant tumor rooted so deeply that it was difficult to remove even with surgery, so his father wasn't even given a chance to get surgery." And this was something I found out later, that some brain tumors are virtually asymptomatic and painless, depending on which part of the brain the tumor is located in. That's why there are situations where the first diagnosis of a brain tumor is the final stage, just like his father's case. So, get regular health checkups. The funeral that day was quite uneasy for me. Because of my mother-in-law's strong opposition to our marriage, I met my father-in-law for the first time through a picture at the funeral, and I hadn't yet been recognized as a prospective daughter. Ex-in-law by my in-laws, I stuck out like a sore thumb who couldn't do anything, but my mother-in-law approached me. "Give me your home address. I will send someone to your house to pick up some change of clothes for you." Pardon me? If you want to stay here for 3 days and nights for the wake service, you have to take good care of yourself by eating food and getting sleep. I might be occupied, so take care of your husband. The motions stirred in an instant. I couldn't say anything as I choked up, but my mother-in-law handed me a small notebook and said, "There was a safe in my husband's study." I wondered what great fortune he had hidden that he wouldn't let anyone come near it, but I found that notebook in it. Your husband's habit of writing in a diary diligently every day must have been inherited from his father. A story I couldn't even tell. Festival. I was young when I had embroidered a music sheet with my voice with 6 strings of an acoustic guitar. I was also a boy and had youth. The father-in-law's notebook began with a poetic phrase. It was a kind of memoir of my father, or of my father-in-law's sad story. His family, brothers, and even relatives were lawyers or in the legal profession for generations. So my father-in-law seemed to have been a lawyer from the moment he was born. But surprisingly, the dream of his youth was to become an acoustic guitar singer. Just for the price of singing a song at a small live cafe, the life he had hoped for was where he could get a glass of beer. My husband, he was a bohemian and romantic. Although my father-in-law was such a strong romanticist, he couldn't overcome the demands of the family. He had to become a lawyer to be accepted as a member of his family by his beloved parents and siblings. He walked the path of an attorney for decades, and it was a long time after the dream he once had became like a faded black and white photograph. I said, "A dream is like that. The more it passes, the clearer it gets. And the farther it gets, the more earnest it becomes." My father, who had to close the furniture factory after being scammed by a business partner, did that. And your son, who suffered opposition from you. I'm sure your husband was the same. It would have remained a lump in his heart for the rest of his life. Now I know that. I read it first. Then do you know this too? She looked at me perplexed. You said that you yourself lived with being treated as if you were invisible at your in-laws' house, right? You said that your husband's love cooled in the end when you believed in his love after you were mistreated by his family, right? He didn't change because you weren't an attorney. When he saw how you were forcing Sam into becoming an attorney, he saw himself where his own family did the same thing to him, and he felt frustrated and sad. He didn't want his own son to become a victim and live a life like him. He wanted Sam to live freely. Yes, I didn't know that and lived all my life resenting him. Because of my resentment, I became a harsh mother to both my son and to you. I'm sorry that I learned of it too late. Mother, oh my at me. I shouldn't be like this. You need to say hello to your father-in-law. Father, I'm your youngest daughter-in-law, Sherry. The funeral went smoothly with reverence. A few months later, my husband handmade a wooden doll and dedicated it to his father's grave. It was a statue of his father playing a guitar and singing. That's how my father-in-law left his family and went on a long one-way journey but I still vividly remember the last phrase left in my father's diary. My life is over now, but I'm happy because I can leave as the father of a carpenter who dreams of life. Our couple got married amid everyone's blessings. My mother-in-law sat at the family head table and cheered us with her benevolent smiles as we embarked on a new life as a married couple. Our newlywed life started in a luxurious condominium in the city, the very one my mother-in-law had offered to give to me as one of the conditions to make her son an attorney. She learned and changed a lot after her husband died. She gave us the condo. How's my husband's workmanship? It's better than my father's these days, by a little, very, very slightly, but better. Well, it would be unreasonable to expect a fair evaluation from me, who is blinded by love from the bluebird husband in the first place. My husband is still sweating at the furniture workshop today. Especially now, he is smiling as he makes a table for his mother. The other day, we changed their dining table, and next will be the living room display case in her house. Like this, my husband and I are working hard for her, keeping both the promise to fill her entire house with furniture designed by me and made by my husband, and to grow our furniture factory. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you have a wonderful day today. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscribing is a big help to me. Take care.